Hello and welcome to the Woollentwine Fiber Studio knitting podcast. My name is Jule and I am the dyer and maker behind Woollentwine Fiber Studio, which is a small creative space located in northern Germany where I play with natural dyes and natural fibers and create my own naturally dyed yarns. This is not a regular episode where I chat you through my knitting projects or what I've been up to knitting-wise, but it's rather an informational episode where I introduce you to something very exciting, a new yarn that I will be launching in the next shop update. So if you're a new viewer here, I should maybe explain that these videos are meant to be like little introductions whenever I have a custom spun yarn, and I like to kind of chat you through what it's all about and share all my testing process with you, and just generally introduce you to the yarn. I should also maybe mention that this is something I do next to my core work of natural dyeing and just selling naturally dyed yarns. I also create my own custom spun yarns from local wool, and I work with local shepherds and small mills that make small batches of local wool for me every now and then. And so whenever this happens, I like to kind of introduce this yarn a little bit more in depth, because you can find all the info about my regular yarn bases on the website, and I talk about those in the yarn preview videos regularly. But for the limited editions, I feel like there is always so much story behind them, and they are so special to me that I like to give a little bit more of an in-depth introduction of them, so you can definitely know what they're all about. I have a dedicated video where I talk about the yarn production process and how I go about it and what I like about it, what the challenges are, and I'm going to link that one, I never know where. I'm going to link it in the little eye, and you can watch that one if you're interested in the whole process and how I select the shepherds, how the communication goes, how I ensure that animal welfare is at a certain level, and just generally how the whole process works and how I do it. So if you're interested in that, I can definitely recommend that video. I think I released it as a little Christmas special last year. But I definitely talk more in depth about the whole process in that one. But for now, I would like to just share the info of the new limited edition with you. So this one is limited edition number 5, and it is a very special blend that I'm so proud of, because it's not very widely available, at least here in Germany, the fiber that was used for this. So without further ado, let me chat you through the hard facts and also show you some samples. Okay, I want to start out with the hard facts about the yarn before showing you some samples and also giving you some pattern suggestions at the end of this video, just so you know what you could knit with the yarn. But first of all, let me show you the beauty. This is our new limited edition number 5 yarn, and it is a grey base, like it has a little bit of a grey sheen, but I absolutely love this shade. And it is an 80% Scotch Mule and 20% Gotland sheep blend that is woolen spun to a kind of a DK weight at 275 meter per 100 grams. I know it might sound a little bit lightweight for a DK weight, but this one is actually, because it's woolen spun, it's pretty voluminous and definitely more of a DK weight than a sport, I would say. And the fiber for this was sourced from a shepherd that is located very closely to me. I think I looked it up today. It was about 50 kilometers from where I live. So it's very close, and I'm very proud to say that this shepherd is the only one in Germany that keeps the Scotch Mule sheep. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Scotch Mules, because I don't know how widely known this breed actually is, because it is not necessarily a breed but more a crossbreed. And it is a crossbreed between a Scottish blackface ewe and a blue-faced Leicester ram. So it has the curliness and the softness of a blue-faced Leicester, but with a little bit more hardiness from the Scottish blackface. And Scottish blackface sheep are known for being very tolerant towards difficult weather conditions and such, which blue-faced Leicester are not necessarily, at least not for the climate we have here, which is why the shepherd decided to see if the crossbreed, so the Scotch Mule, can survive in this climate, which he found out is possible and that they are thriving here. And so yeah, I'm happy to say that we have the only German Scotch Mule fiber in these skeins. And it is a very special fiber because the whole clip that I got for this yarn batch was a first clip. So the first shearing after like the first shearing the sheep ever gets. The result of this being the first clip is that the yarn is exceptionally softer than if you would have like a second or a third clip. So it's pretty much a Scotch Mule lamb's wool even, you could say, even though the term lamb's wool is a bit like stretchable, I would say, because a sheep that's almost like over a year old is not technically a lamb anymore. But yeah. A first clip shearing of Scotch Mule blended with a little bit of Gotland, because my last limited edition that I had was a white one. I don't know if you remember that, but there was 100% local Romney sheep. And that one was white, so I was kind of looking into having a more heathered, not completely white base for this one again. And so we mixed 20% of Gotland fiber into it, so it has a very light, beautiful grey with not a lot of warmth in it. It's a pretty coolish grey, I would say. And yeah, it really accompanies the Scotch Mule beautifully. And if you would like me to describe the touch of the yarn, I would say it's rather dry but quite soft. Like, it has some halo. I don't know if you can see that, but it has a halo, and it's not like sleek and not like silky or anything, but it's still very soft. And I would say if you've purchased a limited edition from me before, in comparison, this one is probably the softest I've ever made. And even though it has those little halo-y hairs, I don't feel like it's prickly or anything. I can definitely wear this next to my neck and it wouldn't bother me at all. And I would say, yeah, it's definitely the softest base I have made from local sheep so far, which is really like making me so happy, because you know I'm not minding any rusticness or something, but let's say with wool that comes from the northern part, especially of Germany, it's difficult to find the breeds that are making really, really soft wool, because they are just not able to survive in our climate. So, for example, it's not very easy to have, you can have merinos here, but they have, like, it's a certain kind of, it's a certain breed of merinos that lives here usually, and not the ones that necessarily have the finest fiber. It's more the more hardy version of merinos, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's not so easy because we have very wet and very windy weather here, and it's not very easy to have soft wool coming from the north of Germany, let me put it that way. So I'm very pleased with how this turned out, and it's just, I remember when I was sorting the wool for this, because it was kind of a larger batch, which I'm going to also talk about later. And I remember sorting the wool for this last summer, and it was really hot. And I remember that I have never seen something so fine. Like the one strand or one lock of the fleece was just so soft and fine. And I remember I was so excited to get the yarn back, and it usually takes a few months for the mill to spin the yarn, so I had to wait quite a bit. And yeah, now I could not be happier with this one. Yeah, I think I mentioned all the facts. It's a DK weight, it's a grey base, it's a 2-ply woolen spun, 275 meters per 100 grams. I'm also going to link all these facts down below, and so you can reference them. But yeah, from a first clip of Scotch Mule sheep, and yeah, I'm just absolutely in love. So I also swatched this, and I think I ended up with around 20 to 22 stitches per 10 centimeters, depending on the needle you're using. And this is the swatch I made without any added fiber or texture or anything. So this is just the yarn on its own. And all the effects in this, like all the little heathered effects, is only from the blending of the Gotland fiber into the white fiber. So I think it's just really beautiful how this plays and how much depth it has. So yeah, you can tell I'm very excited. I also swatched this held double with a strand of Knitting for Olive's Mohair. This is in the colorway, I think it was the colorway Oat, I think, from the Knitting for Olive mohair, which is a sustainable and ethically produced mohair. And I've held that double just so you could see how it looks in comparison. And whenever I compare these two, like directly to each other, I notice that even though of course the mohair adds even more fluff than just the yarn on its own. But I feel like, dude, I don't know if it's because of the Gotland or also because of the Scotch Mule, but this yarn has quite a halo on its own already. So I don't necessarily see the need of adding a strand of mohair if you like this kind of a fluffy effect, because that's what the yarn does on its own already. I don't know if you can see that, but here we go. Nope. Oh yeah. Here you can maybe see that it's kind of a fluffy effect. And yeah, it also feels like there is a little fluffy layer on top of the knitted fabric. So yeah, so you could probably have a garment that looks like you used a strand of mohair without even having to. So yeah, I really love how this is. So this is also why I would recommend this for garments that are pretty much like a little bit more on the simplistic, minimalistic side, because yeah, the fabric itself is going to make the pattern shine, even though it's maybe a very simple, not very textured or color worky thing. Although I would say that it's also suitable for color work, definitely. And for all of those who know, I mean, you probably know Leke or Fibretales, whom I'm happy to call my friend, and she is also producing yarn every now and then from her parents' sheep, which are Gotland sheep as well. And she makes some beautiful, really charcoaly dark grey that I think would go really well with this one. And for example, if you have the latest batch she put out, then you should be able to just combine the two because they have the same meterage. So yeah, this is the same meterage as Leke's Gotland yarn. So if you have something or a leftover skein, I could totally imagine this as a main and then maybe some of the darker Gotland yarn as a contrasting color, because yeah, it will go very well with any kind of darker Gotland shade, just because the undertone, this kind of silvery, coolish undertone that's so typical for Gotland is in this one as well. So yeah, I think it would go very well together. And now I need a sip of tea because I've been chatting non-stop already. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I forgot something. So if something is unclear or if I forgot any info that you wanted to know, then feel free to just email me or put a comment down below, and I will definitely add that info in. But for now, I would like to show you a little sample I knitted in this yarn, because I usually like to give the yarn a proper test run before I release it. And that's also why sometimes it's really hard, because I sometimes get it months before I release it, just because I want to make sure I have tested the yarn and I can definitely tell what it's suitable for before putting it up in the shop. And so sometimes I think this one even came around, yeah, right after Christmas, if I'm not mistaken. So at the end of December, and I have been holding on to it until now because I wanted to properly test it, have some test dyeing runs, and also knit samples so I can show you. I should maybe also mention that I actually did not plan on dyeing this yarn at all, because I like the natural color so much. But then I had a chat with my friend Eva of the Blue Rabbit House, who was actually mentioning that also some color on the base would look very nice. And I had to agree, and also I felt like there's the need of some dyed limited edition after the last one I released in January. So I decided to actually dye parts of it, and I can't wait to show you the colors, but that's for later. Let me show you a sample first, which I have made in the natural undyed colorway, just so I could really see how it behaves when I knit it and how it blooms and blocks and all these things. But this is my Nature's Cardigan by Hayley of Ozetta, and I don't know if you can see, but it's just a very basic stockinette stitch cardigan. I'm also going to show you this one worn in a second. I will insert some clips where I wear it so you can see. But yeah, this is the Nature's Cardigan, and it's actually it's so hard because it's really oversized, and it's a bit difficult for me to show it in the frame fully. But maybe you can have an idea of how the pattern is, because it's just very boxy and very classic, and it doesn't have like a button band, a traditional one, but rather just like an I-cord at the beginning of the row, and then you just add buttonholes to that and buttons. And yeah, I wanted something, as I mentioned, I felt like the texture of the yarn was pretty much like outstanding on its own, and I didn't want to put too much. I've swatched a textured swatch that I cannot find, unfortunately. But I was really into just making a simple cardigan or a simple pattern, just so I could really make the yarn shine as much as I can on its own without any additives. So yeah, I made a very simple pattern to show you the yarn in all its glory. I'm going to put it a bit more closely to the camera just so you can see the fabric a bit better. I can already see this one becoming a true wardrobe staple. I must say I kind of messed up at some point. I don't know what happened, but I had to pause this one for a while. And then I picked it up again, and I kind of messed up with, I thought I had cast on a certain size, but it did not. I cast on another size, and then I ended up having some issues with the numbers, but that's not the pattern's fault. It was definitely just me being a little bit all over the place. Is it a bit too dark here now? Let me see if I can brighten it up a little. Oh yeah, I think that's better. But yeah, it's just a very simple cardigan with some ribbed cuffs and a little ribbed neckline that I modified because it's supposed to be a double folded one, and for some reason I feel like those never fit my neck very well, so I omitted the double part and just knit it in one layer. And this one definitely suits my neckline much better, and it's just fitting much better. And yeah, that's definitely one of the modifications I made. And did I modify anything else? Oh yeah, I omitted an Italian bind-off for the sleeves, which the pattern usually calls for. But since I had so much, I'd struggled so much with the casting on in the like Italian, how do you say? Italian cast on? I don't know, the one that looks like this. I absolutely love how it looks, and I really enjoyed it when I saw how it evolved, but I'm just kind of having struggle with these kind of cast-ons and cast-offs, so I try to omit them wherever I don't find that they are very necessary. So, and yeah, the pattern itself is very inclusively written and very well thought through, I feel. It's just a bit, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge too, because the pattern pages are divided in different, how do you say, in the different sizes. So sometimes to not get confused where you are, it's easier to print the pattern and just throw the pages away that you don't need, because yeah, at the beginning, for myself and my messy brain, it didn't really work, and I had to organize the pattern a bit better so it worked. It's also a size inclusive pattern, so it should be covering quite some different chest circumferences. And yeah, this is the undyed limited edition yarn, and as you can also see in this sample is that the yarn is quite drapey. It's really, even though it's a woolen spun, it really is not as stiff as some woolen spun yarns can be. It's much more drapey, and therefore I also think it would be lovely for shawls and accessories, equally as for garments and such. So yeah, that's also a nice thing. And for the buttons, I again used the little wooden ones that the mother of my friend makes, that I'm thinking of adding to the shop at some point. I know there's quite some interest for them, but we have to figure out some things and how it can work, and right now there's just not the time for that. But I promise I'm going to stick to it and see if I can add them to the shop at some point. And I will definitely keep you updated. So, but I think it goes just very well. The wooden color goes very well with the color of the yarn. Blocking wise, I would say this yarn blooms for sure, but it's not the same kind of blooming like, for example, my rustic merino does, because that one has much shorter staple length. Like every fiber in the yarn is a lot shorter, so there's even more air trapped between the fibers, so whenever you block that one, it blooms a lot. This one does bloom, and it evens out very much during blocking, but it's not in the way that it fills every gap and gets very uniform. It still has a little bit of airiness to it, if that makes sense, which is what I really like. But with the little hairs, like I mentioned the little halo that it has, and this little halo and these kind of fuzzy hairs, I think would also be very nice to make it a color work yarn, because yeah, I think the little hairs will just make it all very uniform and stick together, and I think it could look really nice. So I think that's all about the sample. Again, it's the Nature's Cardigan by Ozetta, and I did size up quite a bit because my gauge was a little off. And I did this one on 4mm needles, and I think if I remember correctly, I cast on for a size 2XL to end up with an XL, because I wanted it to be a bit more oversizey, which it ended up to be, so I'm very happy about that. And I also needed, I think it was a 450 grams. So I set aside 5 skeins for myself for this project. And I ended up having a little ball left. I don't know if that's here somewhere. I don't think so. No, it's not here. But it's just a small, about 50-gram ball, and I also weighed it afterwards, and it was 450 grams. So you can go quite far with this yarn, just because you can still knit it at 4 or 4.5 millimeter needles. I would say 4 rather. But with the meterage being a bit more than a standard DK weight, for example, I think a standard is around 240 to 250. You can go quite far, and I knitted quite a generous size in this, and it still only needed 4.5 skeins. So I guess it's also a good way, because these yarns, of course, are never cheap, but it's nice that you get quite some yardage and you can get quite far with every skein, or with one skein. So yeah, I'm very happy with my Nature's cardigan. I know I'm going to wear this one a lot, maybe when it's still a little bit chilly out and I want to do some things in the garden, or do some things outside. And I think it would be very nice to have something to keep me warm. And that's definitely what it does. It's really warm, because I think with the little fuzzy halo, it really keeps away any kind of wind or air. So it's really, really warm. And yeah, I just really like it. That's all about the sample so far. I have also prepared a few pattern suggestions, but before I'm going to jump in that category of the video, I want to give you a little sneak peek. Don't worry, I'm going to show this more in depth in a dedicated video, but I wanted to give you a little sneak peek of the colorways that will be available. I decided, after I told you I talked to my friend, and also found out that there was quite some demand for naturally dyed limited editions. So I dyed a few staple colorways that we regularly have in the shop, like some trusty favorites on this base. And the reason why I decided to go for that and not go for any like new colorways or a big array of colorways is that we had some issues last time with the limited edition in January. Some of you might still know, I mentioned it in another video, but it sold out super quickly, and there was the issue of some people getting carjacked. And so I was thinking how I could change that for this time. And so I was like, I think one of the reasons why some colorways were carjacked is that I had quite small quantities of each colorway, and there was just a lot of colorways, but not a lot of skeins per colorway. So of course, if 3 or 4 people wanted the same colorway, it was difficult to get enough for everyone. So for this time, I decided I'm only going to go for 6 colorways, 6 very like ones that are popular in our shop on our other bases and that people might know already. And we only took 6 and made much bigger quantities of each color, just so we can maybe yeah, solve the problem of the carjacking from last time. So yeah, I really hope this helps. I'm always doing my best to improve. And I think this could be a good solution. So yeah, we dyed a lot of skeins. Also, we have a little bit of a larger batch this time than last time. So we dyed quite large quantities of each colorway and limited the number of colorways. So I hope this will help. And also there will be plenty of the undyed still, because I feel like this color is just so pretty on its own that I didn't want to dye all of it, but I also wanted to keep a portion of the yarn undyed so people could have the same colorway that I, for example, used for my Nature's cardigan. So yeah, that's about the little rambly info part. I'm also going to sum up all the infos and when the yarn will be available in my, like in the last section of the video. And I will also send out a newsletter with everything, like when the shop goes live and everything. So if you want to keep stay updated and stuff, you can also just subscribe to the newsletter. So, as mentioned, for color work, I can also imagine that the yarn is very suitable, and that's also why I decided to make some colors on this yarn. And I think they are all very, like, you can combine them, but you can also put it all together with the undyed colorways. So I think there are quite some, even though we limited the number of colorways, I think there's still quite some variety to choose from. So. And that is also why I included some color work patterns into my pattern suggestions, which is the next part I want to introduce here. Last time I did the pattern suggestions for the first time, and it seemed like you really liked me putting out some inspiration on what you can knit with the yarn. So I decided to check some patterns for this, both not both, but I tried to find some plainer ones, some textured ones, some color work ones, so you can have an idea of how versatile the yarn is and what it could work for from my experience. So garment-wise, I have, I think, 4 or 5 patterns that came to my mind that I think would work really well with the yarn. Unfortunately, I don't know how it all is with the law situation and copyright and stuff if I just add pictures to the videos, which is why I never dare to do so, because I don't want to be in any trouble. But I'm going to link them all below with all the designers and a little link to Ravelry and or a website or something, so you can find them easily. Starting out with the garments, I think one thing that would be really beautiful in this yarn is the Fanel cardigan by Olan Sush of Ted Besh. That one is a very, very classic, simple cardigan, kind of in the category of the Nature's cardigan as well, like plain stockinette stitch, a bit more of a playful button band thingy, if I remember correctly, and it has a couple of genius details, which is what I totally like. Whenever I think of Olan, this is the thing that comes to my mind. She's just the master of all things simplistic and minimalistic, but with just the right amount of good detail and such. So yeah, this cardigan is no exception. And it's very classic, but still well thought through, and has a few like little tweaks that make it still exciting and not boring. So the Fanel cardigan would work very well in the yarn, and then something a little bit more colorful maybe would be the Vargö sweater by Sari Nordlund, which is a pretty classic color work yoke sweater with like a bit more of, it's not geometrical, but it looks like one of those very traditional Scandinavian sweaters with a colorwork yoke, and it's a 2-color colorwork. So you have one main color for the pullover and then just one contrasting color that you could knit into the yoke. And I was actually, when I was looking at my yarn that I'm having on the table here, and I was thinking of the patterns, I thought that this combo could be just awesome. I don't know, I'm just totally seeing this pullover in this color combo. I'm also going to share more about the colorway names and everything in a separate video, but these two could be really well for that one. Yeah, so that's the kind of colorworky suggestion I would give. And then a pattern that I think would go very well, again, because of the fabric being so beautiful, and yeah, just standing out on its own. I think the Ava sweater by Melody Hoffman of Bee Mandarins would be really beautiful in this yarn as well, because yeah, it's just a very simple classic jumper. I actually knitted this one myself in our BFM Massen DK base, but it's too short and I have to lengthen it, and I was too lazy to do so until now. But I can definitely think that it would really make the texture of the yarn shine to make this pattern in it. So the Ava sweater by Bee Mandarins or Melody Hoffman. And then what I also think would be very beautiful is another Sari Nordlund pattern, and I think it's pretty recently released, and that one is the Billy. And it's a very classic cabled sweater, like one of those that you really would think of. If someone says classic creamed colored cabled sweater, that's the one that comes to your mind, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's a very simple cabled pattern, and I think with the slight halo of the yarn it would be really beautiful and like a little bit more muted, so the cables are a bit more like subtle, which I think, like, if I would think of myself how I would like a cabled sweater to be, I usually feel like if it's an all-over cabled pattern, it can be a bit much for me, but I think with this yarn it could be nice if it's a bit more like muted, if that makes sense. Like the cables won't pop as much as they would do with, for example, our rustic merino base, but it's more of a, yeah, the halo would soften them a bit, I guess. So that's why I wanted to include it in the list as well, because I think it would be really pretty. And then additionally, I also assembled some patterns for accessories, because I also think with the warmth it gives, it would be very nice to have it in an accessory pattern. And I think, because from how I experienced knitting with the yarn, I also feel like it's very sturdy in a way. So I can really imagine even making socks out of it, which I was actually thinking I wanted to do for a sample for this video, but I didn't have enough time to knit another pair of socks. But if I would have had enough time, then it would be the I Just Wanna Go Home socks by Winter Weather Knits, I think. And those are some DK weight socks with a little bit of cable, and they just look super cozy. And I think, yeah, if I would have knitted a sample sock and I had time for it, it would be that one. They are very beautiful, and I think it would make a really perfect warm and cozy house socks for really cold days. And then another accessory I think that would be very lovely in the yarn is the hemlocky scarf by Jenny of Koti Kotoni. She has designed this scarf that has a little pattern that looks like flowers going up, kind of, or wheat grass or something, and it's really beautiful. And I think, yeah, with the fuzzy texture of the yarn, it would enhance the little whimsical flowers quite a bit. So I think it could be very nice. And then last but not least, I think the wood folk hat by the Petite Knitter would go very well as well. It's a colorwork hat that has just a colorwork from the brim to the top, and it's very traditional kind of colorwork looking, and yeah, I think it would keep your head very, very warm in this yarn, so I wanted to include it into the list as well. But that being said, I also think it could be possible to have to wear this in the summer, at least for me, because yeah, for chilly summer evenings or something, it's nice to put it on. And it's not necessarily, because I mentioned it's quite warm several times now, but it's not in the way that it's heavy and warm, but it's more lightweight and warm. So I think it's still very nice for summer as well, and especially if you live in a bit more of a colder climate, and like I do, and summer doesn't really come before July and August. I think it would be nice to have something to throw over when you're sitting outside and with friends or with a book, and it might be a bit chilly in the evening, then this wool would definitely be very suitable for that. So yeah, I guess we are at the end of my little ramble about this limited edition. I'm really excited about this one, and I remember waiting for this for so long, since last summer, and I'm so happy I can finally share everything about this beautiful yarn with you. It's difficult to say this is my favorite, because it would be like you have to pick a favorite child or something from all my limited edition, because I love them all and I put so much work into each single edition that I couldn't really say it's my favorite, but it definitely is very special. This one is just, yeah, just from the texture and how it is, and the fiber that's so rare here and stuff. I think it's a very exceptionally special one, and it really has my heart somehow. Maybe also because of the slight grey color. I just really love it, and I can't wait to share it all with you. And that's going to happen on the 25th of March at 8 p.m. GMT +1, which is the next shop update date. I will also have other yarn bases, such as our sock base and our BFM Mason bases, but I'm going to show the colorways and everything and chat you through the update a bit more in depth in a dedicated video. Because yeah, I think if I would do all in one, it would be 2 hours long at least, so it's nicer to have it a bit more separate. But yeah, for this one, it's just the general info on the new limited edition number 5 that will go live in this update on next Friday. I'm just really excited. And yeah, as always, feel free to email me, send me a DM on Instagram, or comment down below if there are any questions happening, or if you need any help with choosing colors, choosing projects, determining yardage or meterage for your project or whatever. I will try to be online as much as I can in the next few days, and I will take 1 day off next week, which will probably be Wednesday, so that's the only day where it could take a little while for me to reply. But all the other days I will be available, and yeah, gladly help you out if you need any help with patterns or color choices or whatever. I think that's it for today's video. Yes, and I can't wait to show you all the other colorways and chat you through the whole update. I hope you will enjoy the limited edition as much as I do. Oh, I should maybe mention that being limited means it's a limited yarn, and I will have this batch online and it won't be back in the exact same way. So yeah, if you are fancying getting some of this yarn, I would recommend being on time for the update. I know I stress this quite often in the other update videos, but yeah, I just want to say that because I don't want to disappoint anyone or something. As said, the batch is quite a bit larger than last time, so I hope more people will be able to get the yarn. And also we dyed larger quantities, so I hope it will all be a bit more accessible this time than it was last time. And yeah, I just really hope you will enjoy the yarn as much as I do, because it really has my heart. So yeah, that's it for today, and I hope you're having a good time in this world that's kind of crazy right now, and I hope that this little rambling me could take you, away some of the heavy thoughts, and that you maybe had some little entertainment, and that this video brought you some joy. And yeah, let's speak again soon. Bye bye!